same format as last season. We are going to see the two effective, two car classes take the green flag separately. So you can see the LMP2s come here first and then the GT3s. We're not going to start all at once with 40 cars bearing down towards turn 1 there, which allowed Dudley down the inside in the first place through into turn 1. Then through the chicane, Dudley, actually gets caught up on himself, and then maybe it's a slight bit of contact with that.
By a few laps as James Gilpin has managed to try and find his way through this position side by side with Zach Houston. Bit of contact. One of the Mustangs off the road. That's just
the back end of the pro field, and the Pro-Ams are here as well, and that's a spin for Oliver Brooks in the one of the two McLarens rather in the GT3 pro field. Going for Pro-Am nose to tail. The rest of the field stuck behind this side-by-side battle. And look at the flash of the lights from Aguilar. He has to go to the inside eventually, and he'll make his move, but it's 3 wide. He had to just back out of it. The side-by-side holding him back.
Tri-oval. We see there 15-second time penalty for the 22 entry for avoidable contact as well. So that is going the way of Robbie Williams, who we suspected was going to get a penalty. He has received a penalty by way of a 15-second added time at the end of this race as Crest and Smalley are still battling.
There was there's the window for the GT3s now, definitely to come in. It's the battle for the lead in Pro-Am still between Narujo and Tim Schaefer.
Pro-Am class to the outside, backs out of it into the braking zone of turn 1, but the battle for the overall race lead is on as Turnbull has exited pit lane, and he's exited in the race lead, well ahead of Bethel off a 29-second stop. Down the order in the overalls as Sheridan now looks to go for it around the outside at turn 3. Bethel is bleeding here as Sheridan looks to get the move made. He gets it done as they... He seems to be struggling. We saw the contact earlier on from the very audacious move into the Le Mans chicane for Olivo that caught him a penalty as well. We've got an incident under investigation which was involving Olivo actually, and I believe possibly Josh.
On pole in Pro-Am once again. We've seen that. But it's time from him. That's a spun Mustang in the middle of the road there, potentially presenting a chance to Beth.
I think it was just a self-made mistake.
It didn't cause the spin, if there was any anyway. It just certainly didn't cause the spin. So, yeah, that is battling though, and those are the two who are right in behind Sir Crest there. We're nearly side by side towards turn 1. So it's just LMP2 groups everywhere right now in the final minutes of this race.
To put us into a bit of overtime here today, it seems, as he'll come up around the tri-oval. White flag will be out. Final lap of the race for David Turnbull, as he will traverse this wondrous Daytona International Speedway once again for the final time today.
Round in the Bitepoint Racing Sports Car Challenge this season, here from Daytona in the season opener. It's David Turnbull who takes victory by nearly 10 seconds in the end, and not far behind him. Jacob Sheridan is going to come across the line as the LMP2 Pro-Am winner. What a drive from him to get back onto the overall podium late on. So he seemingly is only just about going to get home in 4th position. Tim Schaefer is going to come across the line about now as well as the GT3 Pro-Am winner. A very, very big beats Houston to the line for 4th place in the GT3 overall class. James Pearce, because he wasn't quite lapped, is going to be credited with an extra lap compared to everybody else. Hopefully he's got the extra lap of fuel to actually do this lap here. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second round of the Bitepoint Racing Sports Car Challenge here this season. We come to Spa for round 2 of our championship after the first race at Daytona last week. As you just saw and heard there, a fantastically entertaining race in a new season of this championship, won in the end by David Turnbull at the front of the field. In the other classes by Jacob Sheridan, James Pearce and Timothy Schaefer at Daytona. Well, we cross the world to Europe to one of the other most iconic sports car racing circuits for round 2. The Spa-Francorchamps circuit here in Belgium. Myself, Ian O'Leary and Hamish Monroe will take you through the commentary here tonight. And it's good to be back alongside you, Hamish, for round number 2. It's another massive field. 19 LMP2s to go along with 30 GT3s. It's a humongous field that we have here tonight, once again, in this Bitepoint Racing Sports Car Challenge that's going from strength to strength early on in this season. We're going to have another busy one tonight, I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ewan. It's great to be back here with you once again. And actually, looking at this list of cars, there's a hell of a lot of drivers out there. 49 total cars on circuit tonight. It is going to be a very busy circuit de Spa-Francorchamps here today. And there's going to be some key areas that drivers are going to have to be careful of course, around this circuit. Where ultimately, to pardon the pun for a moment here, there are going to be bite points. There's going to be moments where cars are going to meet up with each other, and they're going to meet up at the wrong stage, whether it's going to be on the run-up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, whether it's going to be into the back end of the Kemmel Straight in towards La Source, through the likes of Pouon and even up through Blanchimont as well. Certain parts of this track, you're not going to be wanting to catch GT3 traffic if you're in the LMP2s, and on the other end of the scale, there's certain parts of tracks where if you're in a GT3 car, you don't want an LMP2 anywhere near you. So it is going to be a very tough task. Very tough race for them as well. We are running the GT layout, or the Grand Prix layout today, not the endurance layout. So they don't have to contest with that very long pit lane, but they do have to contest with the difficulties of exiting pit lane at turn 1. So it's all going to be to play for, but ultimately it's going to be a very tough race across the next hour.
Yeah, and a very fun one as well for us to watch, that is for sure. So many new drivers for us to get accustomed with this season, by the way. Let's show you some of them through the championship standings, and that really, after the opening round, is just the race results from round 1. But it shows you the point structure, and you can see how we're going to look for the rest of the season now. David Turnbull takes the overall victory in LMP2 Pro last week, and it's 50 points for a win, by the way, so you can see with his 54, he's gotten quite a few bonus points to his name. Adam Bethel, who took the pole for that race at Daytona last week, is in second, ahead of Alan Aguilar, who was on the podium in the class. Andrew Fabian, Sammy Hendricks, Dalton Dudley and Scott Mowry were the other drivers. But already, as you see, down to 7th, and you're already losing 30 points to the class leader. Jacob Sheridan was battling up towards the front with the others, and I think will be moved up into the pros in coming weeks. Not sure whether that has actually happened for tonight or not. Indeed, it has actually. So he's temporarily leading the Pro-Am standings, but you don't get your points wiped away or anything when you move class. But he's forever in this season going to stay on 50 in front of Nicholas Agrest, who's in second, and Tyler Crowe, who got on the podium there as well. Stephen Smalley, Robbie Williams, Arden Green, Francis Crosby, who's moved class this week as well, and Thomas Gruber will round off the field. There were 10 GT3s. James Pearce taking 2 of the bonus points, along with the 50 for taking the race victory. Paul Basson and Zach Houston, previous contenders in championships at Bitepoint, finishing second and third. Daniel Leaf, another new driver. Then Justin Bock, rounding out the top 5. Anthony Mazzella next, out of Michael Spon. Joseph Crawford, who's gone very well in this qualifying session tonight, by the way, Rodrigo Viana and Oliver Brooks, who didn't actually score any more points from that one. And then the massive Pro-Am field for GT3s, won by Timothy Schaefer, who beat Lorenzo Rujo and RJ Dubek and Christopher Gondin, all returning names. Top 5 completed by James Gilpin. Mackenzie Malcolm was 6th, head of Walker Morgan. Josh Mann was in 8th, head of Randy Oliver, Ryan Castlebury, Tyler Smith and Justin Welsh, the last of the point scorers. Timothy Gregg and Jordan Cox rounded out, and Neil Barber rounded out the Pro-Am field. But somehow we've got even more in the field here today for first of all, the Pro-Ams, who have 16 drivers in their midst, 14 pros, an increase on last week as well. And in the LMP2 Pro-Am, we've got less, but in Pro, more. So it's a switch around as we arrive at Spa this week. In the Ardennes Mountains, of course, over 7 kilometres round here, and therefore, in terms of a lap time, over 2 minutes, even for the best of our LMP2s who've just completed their qualifying session. Let's take a lap on board and a look through this iconic racetrack. First of all, La Source, which is not the most iconic circuit on the course, but actually it's the one that's been here for the longest, pretty much since the dawn of time. Feels that when the Earth was created, La Source was probably already there, and it still remains there today. The run down towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon, this is where things start to get a little bit different, but these are the iconic corners that make this circuit so great. Up the hill through Eau Rouge and Raidillon there, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better section of corners than that, certainly a more iconic section. Through onto the Kemmel Straight, and then towards where the big overtaking opportunities will be. Uphill in towards Lecombe. Uphill means the braking zones are slightly shorter than they otherwise might be, but it's still a great chance for overtaking. Through the chicane now, and just trying to navigate and thread your way through here really without dipping wheels onto the gravel on the outside at all. Downhill through the right-hander next through Bruxelles. It's a difficult right-hander through here before you get into No Name. Again, where the gravel's been brought right to the edge of the racetrack, which is a positive thing for enforcing track limits, which have historically been a bit of a nightmare around here. Through Pouhon, fantastically committed double left-hander up here. Through the first part, then the flat-out second part. All given turn 12 numbers here. And then in towards the Spa-Francorchamps chicane. We'll stay to the right-hand side out the first one to open out the second bit. And then you power towards Stavelot. Again, another place where the gravel is closer. They're both there on the exit of Pippa, but also here on the exit of Stavelot. And then the Curve Pour Frere, which is turn 16 on this map. Really continues on for quite a way out of the actual turn itself, which is quite committed and nearly flat out in a GT3. Certainly is in a prototype. And then you run up towards Blanchemont, the very, very fast left-hander. A wonderfully committed corner. A little bit more runoff here, so a little bit more room for error, but even in GT3s these days, you're getting pretty close to going there through flat out in almost any circumstance. In towards the final bus stop chicane, and again, this will be where there's plenty of overtaking chances going into the end of the lap. And there's a complete lap here of Spa. I say it's absolutely iconic. Nobody would have been learning the layout this week to get used to it, which is a positive for everybody. Everybody will know their way around here very, very well. But the question is going to be how they interact in terms of traffic. It should be one of the places, since it has hosted multi-class racing for so long. The 6 Hours of Spa was first held here in 1953. Not on this layout, you understand, but you get the point. This circuit has a long history of multi-class racing, and of course the iconic 24-hour race here that first run in 1924. It is very, very historic, this racetrack, in terms of multi-class racing, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy for the guys to deal with 50 cars out there here tonight.
Well, no, that's right. I mean, it's just because it is one of the longest permanent race courses in the world doesn't necessarily mean it is easy to deal with traffic. It is actually one of the more difficult circuits for traffic management, just because of the fact of you've really got to wait for a clean area to try and get past drivers. You think about how many different overtaking opportunities you would have within your interclass battles or your inner class battles throughout this race. You got to think of that. Well, then that's the only real opportunity you're actually going to get in the LMP2 class, for example, to get past those GT3s. The difficulty, or I suppose the thing that makes it slightly easier is exit of corners is really going to be your main game of overtaking opportunity. If you're within the LMP2 class, obviously you get a much better run out of corners. That'll set yourself up well for moves. You don't want to be overzealous though. If you are trying to get past multiple GT3 cars through Les Sources at turn 1 and up towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon, sometimes the betterment is just to back off if you can't quite get them all before the run up the hill, just to back off, tuck in behind and get them on the exit, because more times than I could count, and I've seen incidents up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon where drivers have gone overcommitted. They've tried to overtake too many cars at once, and ultimately it's ended in tears for all of them at the top of the hill because someone tries to make it 2-3 wide, and Eau Rouge and Raidillon's very, very difficult to go 2 wide at the best of times. If you try and make it 3 wide, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's Let's see as we get our first notification from race control. Warm-up begins, so everybody going to get used to having GT3s and LMP2s out there all over again. Let's go through the starting grid while they're doing that. Dalton Dudley on the pole here tonight in front of David Turnbull, who qualified second last week. See whether he can convert it into a race win like he did last week. Thomas Gruber and Scott Murray will be then on row 2. Gruber really down there in the standing, actually, after a difficult first race. Andrew Espinez and Alan Aguilar then on the next row. All of these been pros so far, as are Andrew Fabian. But first, Pro-Am is Arden Green, who starts from 8th place overall. And rounding out the top 10 is Carl Smith and last week's pole sitter Adam Bethel, who starts 9th in class and 10th overall. Outside the top 10 is Sammy Hendricks, who is also a pro. Lucas Wall is as well, sharing row 6. Then it's Stephen Smalley, the first of our the second of our Pro-Ams rather. First since Arden Green, who's right up there towards the top. Harrison Holiday is also alongside. Jacob Sheridan, the new pro driver, is 15th, ahead of Tyler Crowe. And Nicholas Secrest and Oliver Hubbard are going to be on row 9, in front of the final of the LMP2s, which is Gray Bates. An absolutely massive field in LMP2, and it's even bigger in GT3. Joseph Crawford taking the overall pole here in the Mustang tonight, with 20th overall. James Pearce, last week's winner, is in second in front of Alexander Cortez, who makes it 3 different manufacturers in the top 3. It will end there, though, with an All Mustang row 12, Daniel Leith and Jed Cotterman on that row. Next up, Anthony Mazzella, first of the Porsches, in front of new GT3 driver Francis Crosby, who's unsurprisingly in the Audi in the field. Justin Bock is 27th in front of Rodrigo Viana, the Brazilian, starts from 9th place in class. Zach Houston is then next, quite a long way down by his standards, and Pavel Kaska is next in line. Only 3 more pros to go before you get to, but the Pro-Ams come next. Outside the top 30 is Lorenzo Rujo, then John Voigt. They're on the front row for their class. It is Paul Basson who is next, the reigning pro champion, all the way down in 33rd, alongside Mackenzie Marcourt, who's 3rd in the Pro-Am class. Michael Spon is next, also a pro, in front of Chris Grondin, who's also a Pro-Am, 4th place in that class. Then Mark Samad, the final of the pros, followed by all Pro-Am, Randy Olivo is 5th in class and lines up next, followed by the rounding off of the top 40, Jordan Cox and Joe Culp on row 20. It is Justin Welsh and Josh Mann who are outside of that top 40, and I say all of these Pro-Ams from here. Walker Morgan and James Gilpin, the first driver outside the top 10 for the Pro-Ams. Tyler Smith and Ryan Castlebury, identical BMWs on row 23. Bo Harvey and Tim Craig on row 24, in front of Neil Barber, who rounds out the absolutely ginormous 49 driver field. I mean, I'm glad it's Spa. I'm glad it's 7 kilometres, because I can only think of 2 racetracks, samest, that we might go to that are actually longer than this one, Le Mans and the Nordschleife. This, I would say, maybe comes in next, unless I'm forgetting any obvious ones. Certainly, as far as traffic is concerned, this is the place you'd want to take 49 cars, but that, again, like you said earlier, that does not mean it will be easy by any means.
No, that's right, and I am actually just going to double check something here between those tracks that you mentioned. All right, so Spa is 7 kilometers long completely. Let me check this other one here.
Pretty much exactly, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. No, there is one that you forgot, Ewan.
Oh,
it's actually local to Australia, and it's Shell VPR Motorsports Park, which is 7.7 kilometers long. For its full,
too new, you see.
For its full GT layout. It's so young comparatively, but yeah. I mean, we know that tonight's race is going to be one where early in this one it's going to be quite chaotic. I have a feeling, Ewan, based on what we saw last week at Daytona, which, again, another circuit where drivers shouldn't have had to have done too much practice for track acclimatization. There should be plenty of seat time around these circuits to begin out our season. The real challenge, I suppose, that's going to come is when we head out to tracks such as Laguna Seca, possibly even Bathurst for those LMP2 drivers, and then as well Canadian Tire Motorsport Park the week after too, because the first 5 rounds really are built up of 2 multi-class heavyweights in terms of Daytona, and of course here at Spa. Then we go to more sports car venues, right, with the likes of Laguna Seca, Bathurst and Moss Sport. But I'm interested to see what happens now across this race. I mean, we've got 60 minutes. Both classes are roughly going to do 15 laps on their fuel. So we should be in for a one-stop once again for both classes here today. But how does the traffic management have a part to play in that? And will it be chaotic enough that we see a safety car? Remembering that race control will only call them if they feel it is necessary. And I have a feeling that if we get a track blockage or even just a car park at the top of Raidillon, that may be the case enough to try and reset the field and get everyone back together again. Other than that, we're just going to kind of hope and pray that we make it past lap 1. I think if we make it past lap 1 cleanly, without too many graves around the circuit, we may be okay. But ultimately, the drivers are going to want to try and keep themselves in line and in check and keep themselves clean across probably the first 5 laps to get themselves into a rhythm.
Yeah, indeed. I just looked up that layout of the bend, by the way. I did once do a broadcast there from that GT circuit.
It's very easy
700 metres longer, but the lap times there are the best lap time ever, 2 minutes 38 in the LMP2. So that's a real long.
And it's at 35 corners as well. It's ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah, it's quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
Good evening to everybody watching on at home. Robbie Williams again for the second time this week, sadly watching at home. Hopefully we'll see him back on the racetrack very, very soon. And somebody else in YouTube chat who says it's the first time watching something like this, let's see how it works. Well, if that is the case, and this is your first time watching multi-class racing or the sports car racing of this kind, strap in, because this is going to be, this will be towards the wilder extreme of what we even see for people who might have watched a lot of sports car racing, a lot of multi-class racing in the past. Even this is on the wilder extreme for them. I'd like to know how many of these drivers have competed in a field as large as this in a sprint race format of just 1 hour like we have here tonight in the Bitepoint Racing Sports Car Challenge. It is unusual to say the least, but it is going to be supremely entertaining. Glad to say that all 49, apart from Neil Barber at the back of the field, have gotten onto the grid. So 48 taking the start. I think that's plenty for us to be getting on with here for the next hour or so as the drivers weave their way towards the final turn. 73 degrees Fahrenheit on the racetrack, not the warmest in the world, and the slightly extended short formation lap that you get in iRacing at Spa these days will be coming in handy just a little bit to these drivers. But the weaving now stops. The racing will soon begin. And Dalton Dudley, making it 2 different pole sitters in the first 2 rounds, will get us underway from the front. Decides not to go straight out of the final turn. See if that catches anybody off guard in the background here, as they all have to wait for Dudley's word before they get this race underway. Green flag waves as 1 hour of madness at Spa begins in the Bitepoint Racing Sports Car Challenge. Dudley gets off to a fantastic start and leads comfortably through turn 1. It's Thomas Gruber who's up to second place, who had a difficult last week, already ahead of last week's winner David Turnbull in the only change inside the top 4. There's a spin at the back of the field meantime for Harrison Holday. He was at the front with Arden Green, who was the pole sitter in Prams. They've clearly got crossed up together. We'll go back and look at some replays in a moment, but meantime, the GT3 start begins now, and it is Joseph Crawford with the choice of when to go, and the top 3 immediately pull into line, unlike in the LMP2s where they were side by side for second position. Out of the first turn, and it is Crawford in the GT3s, just like Dudley was in the LMP2s, comfortably leading, coming out of the source for the first time.
We've already got a spin down at turn 1. Chris Grondon has gone off the road, as well as Lucas Wall in the LMP2s is going slow further up the order as well. So some early war wounds for some drivers around this circuit, as Dalton Dudley's gotten us underway nice and cleanly. Secrest, of course, leads the way for the Pro-Ams to this stage as Pierce continues along. As Smith, the teammates have come together on the Kemmel Straight just before the run down towards Lacombe, as Smith and Castlebury have come together in what could only be described as quite an embarrassing moment for that team. I'm sure you can agree, Ewan.
Well, friendly fire. We'll see the replay before we make any judgments about whether they took each other off. One of them might get taken out and collected the other inadvertently, but let's find out. There might be a bit more of a story to tell here. So one of them gets out, and then it's not entirely. It's not entirely self-inflicted there.
No.
It's actually unfortunate, really. It's actually unfortunate for the 2 teammates. Smith had to come back straight back to pit lane. Castlebury carries on, but actually not as we thought. Actually, them taking each other off. Randy Olivo, the one who spins, qualified 4th in the Pro-Ams. He spins at the top of the hill, and actually, just on reflection, very unfortunate.
Yeah, it doesn't hold brakes either, which is, obviously rule number 1 when you're having an incident, especially so fast-paced there. Ewan as well. Actually, the BMWs, to be fair, actually did well to hold their brakes and pull themselves up. But yeah, that's a massive mistake for Mr. Oliver to make, and to not be holding brakes as well. One thing that I'm sure race control will be reminding him of going forward, because we don't want to have incidents where cars are ricocheting off the wall back onto the track, which can then obviously be saved if a car can be pulled up in time. So he just needs to do his best to try and appease the field and do that himself if he can. Dalton Dudley's already built up a nice lead here, 1.5 seconds at the moment. Back to Mr. Mowry as well, where currently the top 5 is made up by Thomas Gruber, Andrew Fabian and Andrew Espinez as well. For the LMP2 Pro-Am category, Nicholas Secrest leads the way to Tyler Crow, Stephen Smalley, Oliver Huber and Aidan Green as well. To the GT3 Pro field, James Pearce, great race last week. Beautiful BMW as well. This thing is absolutely gorgeous out there. Leading the way to Alexander Cortez, Joseph Crawford, Daniel Leith, Jed Cotterman inside the top 5. Great to see Jed back out there amongst this Bitepoint field, as well as the investigations are continuing now for race control. Pro-Am field, well, this man threw away a race win last week, Lorenzo Araujo. He leads the way at the moment to John Voigt, Mackenzie Mycord, James Gilpin and Josh Mann as well. And there was one driver that we were asked to mention. It's this man here, Francis Crosby Ewan. Apparently he has been on the wrong side of the admins this week. He's been getting a little bit too complacent about the LMP2 car apparently, and to use Race Control's words, not mine, Race Control's specifically, he has, well, he's kind of bitched it a little bit here. Ewan, and actually gone back to the GT3 car away from the LMP2 because apparently it was too hard to learn. Interesting choice though to choose the Audi, which is a setup heavy car, and if you can't set this thing up, I would argue it is far, far worse to drive than the LMP2
Oh, well, I was going to say, famously easy to learn the Audi.
Easy to learn, but you know, needs the setup if you want to learn it, I suppose.
Well,
but
I was being sarcastic.
No, I know.
Not easy to learn at all. But yeah, we're always being told by Race Control to take the mick out of Francis Crosby at every possible opportunity. So
that's right.
There are instructions here for tonight. Anyway, further at the front of the field in GT3 overall, James Pearce is into the lead here in front of Joseph Crawford, who's actually behind Alexander Cortez as well here. And it's an early lead for Pearce, actually, of just over 2 seconds. Further back in the pack, Justin Bock heading the train here down towards bus stop. There we can see his webcam there as he looks right and left as he gets out the final chicane. And over the start-finish line at the end of it all, that Crosby, that's getting pretty close here to making a move in towards turn number 1 as we look back from the BMW, who's not going to do it into 1. He'll wait to the long Camel Straight here, where it looks like he is going to try something.
And we'll see if he can line this up. Bock looking to be the face of concentration right now as he continues this fight as well. And to give you the sheer magnitude and the size of this field, of course, I mean, we can look through this throughout the race to really see where drivers have been placed and where they're sitting as well. There we see it. That is 35 cars. That's the top 35, Ewan. We can see that the top half of that 35 is made up of all LMP2s. Is down the inside, Crosby trying to go for it. Can't quite get there at Lacombe. And then, yeah, the bottom half of the field is all made up of GT3s. But there's more of them below that number that will be trying to fight their way for position going forward.
I mean, the prams are barely on the screen there down the bottom, which is just remarkable. Just shows you how big the field is. Secrest and Crow, meantime, are battled side by side there. Secrest, I think, holding on to the lead there in the prams of the LMP2s. That's 11th place overall, and it's part of a big group, actually, or could potentially catch up to this massive group. You can see they're sort of creating their own here, but only a second or so up the road. You've got that massive one being created by Espinez, who's recently got past Fabian for 4th position. But that was just a dip of the wheels onto the gravel down there out of turn 1 for Secrest as he comes up towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon, sorry. I'll get to Lacombe in a moment. Has Crow got the run here? Doesn't quite look like it. Here is what happened on lap number 1, by the way. Now we've finally got a moment to have a look. Harrison Holiday going straight into the back of Arden Green, the Pro-Am pole sitter. And I believe that is what we've just seen a penalty tick across for.
Yeah, that was indeed.
Yeah,
that was
15 seconds.
Yeah, exactly what we saw. This was also Chris Grondin's moment. So actually, he had an initial moment under the start, just rear-ended one of the other Ferraris out there, a bit of friendly fire between the Italian manufacturers, and then actually it only got worse for him as he came around turn number 1 and actually got spun out here off this start. So he had Jordan Cox to his inside, and the Corvette doesn't realise he's there. I'm going to assume he drives across the nose. So Cox actually ran a bit wide then and just kind of hooked him, but yeah, that's a really messy race start, and arguably not at the level I would expect for GT3 drivers. And I would expect GT3 drivers maybe to be of a B-class driving capability. That was a very, very low par move on lap 1, and one that I think was maybe a little bit of desperation.
It was. It's always difficult in their defence in GT, especially here at Spa when you go into the start. Obviously, GT3s have actually taken the green flag is actually already waving by the time the GT3s are taking that final chicane, and the stack up you can sometimes get through there is absolutely remarkable through the final turns, as we saw for Chris Grondin there a couple of moments ago. There's a look at the Pro-Ams. Chris still leading here in front of Crow and Smalley, who's in third, but it's hard to ignore the fact that 2 of the top 3 from qualifying are not here because of the incident that we just saw, that this is given Holday a 15-second time penalty. You have seen it on your screen at various points here tonight, not least in the intro video, and a big thanks and a hats off to those behind making that at the start of tonight's broadcast, by the way. It did point out 3 penalties that were officially confirmed from last week's race. Randy Oliver, Robbie Williams and Sammy Hendricks, all with 15-second time penalties for avoidable contact throughout the day. So that's just a bit of housekeeping from last week. Here comes Smalley on Tyler Crowe for second place. You can see it just in front here of Jacob Sheridan, holding his own in the 11th place in the Pro Class at the moment. He watches on as his former class go side by side into Lecombe, and Crowe holds on as more news of penalties come through. 15 seconds for Cox for the incident we saw a couple of moments ago.
Yeah, so more and more penalties going the way of drivers out there. There is a little bit of field spread just starting to come about now as well, which often, it's not actually that surprising for Spa that it does actually happen. We will often see the field begin to spread, and then everyone will find themselves once again later on, as we see Justin Box still under pressure here. We've got an incident at the back though. Joe Culp has gone into the wall at Blanchimont. Very, very easy to do. And the McLarens are really struggling. Something has happened to the balance of performance to these things, because time and time again, I have been seeing McLarens having horrid incidents. We saw it last week at Daytona, and we've already seen it twice tonight now with both Olivo and Culp at the wrong end of the stick in terms of the McLaren spinning them out the other side. So, yeah, not the way that he would have wanted his race to start, but that car will definitely be carrying some damage.
I would argue that was induced by the line that he took, to be honest, through into Blanchimont there.
Probably
it was
wasn't
very,
helped.
very narrow there.
Yeah, probably didn't help.
Spins to the inside. You can see how crooked the front left is. There's Sheridan again. Oh, nearly getting into a spin there, passing BMW. Some of his rivals going the other side here as they get into traffic for the first time. Now, the main part of the GT3 field is sort of out of the first sector already, so they're actually quite a long way behind those real top guys, as you can see here. But Mackenzie McCord has also had his own trouble, and that's rear left suspension damage. And he's done that on his own, spinning out of Lecombe into the tyre wall. And that is fairly severe damage for him there as he just pulls the car around. You'll be able to see it yourself. There you go. That wheel is not pointing in the right direction.
No, and that has now a tow back to pit lane for Mackenzie McCord as well. So he'll have to wait a few minutes before he can get going. Once again, we can see that Smalley, Sheridan battling away here as well. Lucas Wall behind them too. Further back in the GT3 category for the Pro Class, Joseph Crawford and Daniel Leith, they battle for an overall third position as well as an interclass third position as well, as we'll have a look at the GT3 Pro category too as well. 14 cars on the grid today for this field. They're all actually quite spread out. Unfortunately, because of the separation of the field, the top 11 they are all in a row at this stage of the race before we then are separated by some of the GT3 Pro-Am category. Of course, that's being led by Araujo at the moment. Olivo's been given a black flag for the incident that we saw on lap 1 up at Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Can't really blame race control for that one. McCord out of this race. Barber is out of this race as well. He actually never got started, unfortunately. So we started with 48. We're down to 47 as Josh Mann has made a mistake at the final corner. He's gotten back going again. Have to wonder though if this was a half spin through the final chicane. Appears to be sausage curb worthy. It is. He's climbed it over. And the Ferrari is not a four-wheel drive. It doesn't have any flex to it at all as it spins around and the other drivers take evasive action.
Just pulled to the right there as he was rejoining as well, just to make sure that he didn't get in the way of everybody as he was rejoining. Cox was one of those to regain a place there back into the top 5, but as we just saw, that penalty for Cox is going to be very, very costly indeed once that's applied at the end of the race. There is Dalton Dudley leading the way here tonight, and by nearly 3 seconds actually, but there is the problem. There is the traffic, and that just in front of him I think is Chris Grondin, who is next in line to be overtaken. Indeed it is, but he signals the real start here of proper traffic, I think, for the first time for these race leaders.
Yeah, he is. I mean, we can see there is some separation between Grondin and then Walker Morgan, who's a bit further up the road as well, but this is the first piece of tests that the LMP2s are now going to get. This is kind of the first domino, if you will, in the line. Get past Grondin, and then all of a sudden the traffic is going to get much, much more condensed. Now, I suppose the less of an issue is the GT3 field ultimately has actually spread out quite a fair bit. Now, there's only a couple of little battle packs where the LMP2 drivers will have to deal with some of those smaller groups of cars. The issue that's going to come of that for the GT3s is if the LMP2 can't get past them quickly, it can actually then slow them up and can then become an issue for them as running it wide as Morgan. This may give an opportunity here for Dudley to get past. The other issue is, Ewan, if Dudley or any of the other LMP2 drivers gets caught out behind the GT3 traffic because they don't have an opportunity to get past yet, it is crucially going to cost them massive time, which we saw last week at Daytona be a real issue and a real factor at one of the easiest circuits to deal with traffic. You then come to the circuit to Spa-Francorchamps today, which is arguably I would say it's a medium difficulty to deal with traffic here. It's not necessarily the hardest track to deal with it, but it's not the easiest by far. It's going to be quite a different story in terms of that traffic filtration and decontamination for the LMP2 field.
You can see early on in these early bits of traffic that Mauri's had a better run for it already, and I think that's going to continue here as Dudley gets slowed up the hill here. While Mauri has a better free run, he's going to get slowed eventually by Cox there. Or does he actually? He didn't have to slow down at all. And they're weaving in front of Dudley here. They can't agree on which line to take. Dudley's going one side of one and to the right side of the McLaren. And that's below half a second for the first time since the start of this race. Mauri is really closing in on Dudley here. And you need a little bit of good fortune. But of course you need to negotiate it well yourself as well. And Mauri has made absolute use of the hand he's been dealt. And he's given us a battle for the lead here on this first run through traffic.
That is how easy it is for you to drop time in traffic here as well, as there has been an incident further back in the GT3 field. Cox and Welsh have come together as well. We were mentioning that these cars were getting incredibly close, especially with the LMP2 field starting to come through. And actually, Welsh had already gone round at that point. So was there contact that has sent Justin Welsh around, or has he lost it on his own? He's lost it on his own. Another incident for the McLarens, not being able to hang on to the rear end. That is becoming a real issue with this balance of performance on board. Those raging McLarens out there, Ewan. It's well, not the first time we've seen it tonight. Actually, the third time we've seen that be an issue tonight. But yeah, I don't think we can blame the racing line on that one, on that case for that car. So unfortunately, the McLaren is just spat him out the other side. And again, that is becoming a real issue, and probably far and few between the previous.
Oh, no! An absolute plane crash on the way towards Blanchimont. It's a terrible accident. Oh, and the Mercedes hits the wall really hard at the end of the piece as well. The Porsche's smoking. That's tyre smoke by the looks of things. The Mercedes has barely got any front wheels working. My goodness me. What a humongous accident that was on the way towards Blanchimont. That is an absolute plane crash, and it did start with LMP2 interference. It wasn't Arden Green, who's just sort of having a very strange moment off in the gravel here. Goodness me, it's a very, very hard hit. The Porsche is Michael Spont, and the Mercedes is Mark Samad. neither of them having great qualifyings, to be honest. But they had a bit of a miscommunication, really, with the prototype that was coming up on them here. And they were running side by side themselves. You see one of them gets through. And Samad tries to... and there is contact, with that other LMP2 that sends the Mercedes into the Porsche. Both of the GTs into the wall. And that is going to be looked into by race control. That is one of the bigger crashes you'll see.
Now, I don't even know how to determine that, Ewan. I mean, that is... Initially, on an initial look through, right, this looks to be impatience, right? So Samad has a poor run onto the back straight, and he's trying to traverse the traffic, but he's weaving. Okay, arguably, it's on the Mercedes, I think, because he's weaving a lot because he's unsure of where to go. He's actually been spooked. You can see that he's actually been spooked by them here. So he's weaving in and out, doesn't know where to go. He's stuck 3 wide. Should be fine. Should be okay. But he just moved over because he wasn't sure where he needs to go. Doesn't hold his line, which is the biggest thing we always say in multi-class racing is just hold your line. The faster class can get around you. Him changing his line just then and there is what caused that, arguably, because he got spooked and he didn't know where to go.
I think that's a little bit harsh. I mean, well, firstly, the room for error for everybody there is very small.
Very small. It is very, very small. I think there is some onus on the LMP2. The LMP2 behind should have waited for the track to open, but for Samad, he got incredibly spooked, and I know it's difficult, and I'm not saying it was egregious by any means. It wasn't egregious at all. I'm saying that he needs to use that as a learning experience as to why you don't change racing lines or you don't change your line when you've got fast traffic approaching you. It's better for you to race forward than to race in your mirrors because they can always go around you. They can always predict where you're going to be. There's no point in you trying to predict where, if you're the car ahead, there's no room or no point for you to try and predict where they're going to be and where they're going to pass you because it's always going to end in tears.
What I was going to say was they all had space to do that. You know,
he has been given a penalty, by the way, for
in the piece.
Yeah,
and there is the 15-second time penalty. I'll just read out what Jason Holland actually said about it. He says it's on the Merc. The Mercedes swerved at the last second. The LMP2 had plenty of room, but Merc moved over at the last second. Then there was clear it was clear, and then there was contact. Fair enough. I mean, fair enough. I would personally be leaning on the side of a racing incident, but maybe I'm overly forgiving for a crash like that. As I say, that they did all have space for that. It wasn't one of those where sometimes you look at a 3-wide crash and you think, well, that wasn't very sensible because there was never any space for it. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure we can say it on that occasion. There was certainly space for all 3 of them to exist there, but they couldn't make it work.
They were also all going to a widening part of the track as well. So we can see here, I mean, it was Aguilar and Fabian who were battling for position. They were coming to a point of the circuit where it actually widens off of that corner as well. So they were always going to get more space and they were always going to get more room to finish it. Unfortunately for the Mercedes of Samad, I've been in both positions, Ewan. I've been in both the positions of the faster prototype and the slower GT car. And genuinely, because they often say, there's often 2 sides of the coin, right? There's the prototype driver's mindset and then there's the GT driver's mindset, right? Of the prototype driver's mindset is, hold your line, we can get past you. And the GT driver's mindset is, I'm going to try and get out of your way so you can pass me. And ultimately, as someone who has driven both, it is better for you to just hold your racing line. The faster car will get past you. And ultimately, Samad got spooked, changed his line, contact was made. That's the unfortunate scenario that's on hand. Luckily for Fabian, he actually didn't get heavy damage on his LMP2 car because that car can brake very easily. He's just made contact. He's just made contact with Jed Cotterman. And that car is absolutely destroyed. The point I was about to make was still needs to be patient, yes, but Samat ultimately was at fault for the last incident. This one, though, looks like it could be on the fault of Andrew Fabian. Let's watch this here. So he looked to go up the inside of Jed Cotterman down here. He's not quite clear. Okay, now he's far enough up. Caught the curb, actually, and came across, and then was contacted by Stephen Smalley as he was looking to come by as well. So that one there, Ewan, there's probably more of an argument of a racing incident, but because of the fact that Fabian has tried to go down the inside at a moment where, yes, he's alongside, but he's caught too much curb and it's running wide, he may be put at the penalty for that one, as Joseph Crawford's had a moment here as well.
As the GT3 leader, don't forget, whoa! Very slight bit of contact with dramatic consequences as well. That was very well. Previously, the GT3 leader, of course, the pole sitter earlier tonight. There was tiny contact there, but again, big consequences, and that car is pretty ruined as well. Race control are going to be very busy in the next couple of hours. I think there is a tiny bit of contact here. Let's see as Aguilar comes around. It might be net code. Let's see.
I think it was net code.
It might have been net code, but it wouldn't have happened on its own there, I would suspect. Crawford very nearly went up and over completely, but instead he stayed all four wheels on the ground. Unfortunately, he still got involved in the crash. Well, what a couple of moments of madness this all has been here on the first run through traffic. Everyone's in a rush. There's been a few casualties through it as well. Glad to say that there's not been too many retirements so far. Mackenzie Mycord has retired, unfortunately, from this race. I believe that Tyler Smith has also retired in the GT3 Pro-Ams. Mark Samad has been in the pit lane for a good while now. We'll see whether he re-emerges. But, yeah, it's been very busy first run through traffic, as you'd expect.
Aiden, by the way, in the chat is claiming that we commentators curse people. I don't believe in witchcraft, Aiden, so I don't believe in commentators' curses. And it doesn't work if you don't believe in it. That's my thoughts, Ewan. If we don't believe in a commentator's curse, it's not true. It's just a skill issue. As we've had there, that is Paul Bass and Lorenzo Araujo as well. So, we can see that the cars are trying to find their way through. This is a very messy spot on the road. Sheridan somehow. Oh my God. What has happened with Basson and Araujo? So Araujo's trying to race an LMP2. I don't know why in the hell he's trying to do that. Basson then gets loose, makes contact with the rear of Araujo, and then the traffic management of the other cars trying to come past. This is incredibly messy from overzealous racing, I think we're seeing right now, Ewan. What is Araujo doing? Oh,
he's
God.
He's trying to do this carefully, but he's making it worse.
And that is often the issue. Drivers trying to be overcautious is often at times what causes these incidents. And right now, we're seeing it plain, simple, right in front of us. It's netcode contact with Araujo shoving him off the road.
Yeah, I could see that from the moon. That was definitely netcode contact there that came through the pit path chicane, and he's off again. So was previously the Pro-Am leader, Lorenzo Araujo, now down in 7th place in class due to a couple of spins. And it does look like that Porsche's got a bit of damage on it. Doesn't look entirely happy at the moment as we approach half distance here at the beginning of tonight. As always, we're handed what the guys are in race control are expecting in terms of fuel stints for these drivers. Well, for the LMP2s, it's expected to be 15 laps. Well, for the GT3s, 14. We're not too far away from lap 15 here for the LMP2s. That's what you can see in the top but left there. Not the lap of the driver we're currently watching, but instead the one of the leader. So a couple of laps, and we will see pit stops here for the LMP2s. And not long after that, if pretty much at the same time, then the GT3s will all be in as well. And maybe this leading battle for the GT3 Pro lead will come in nose to tail as they are right now between James Pearson and Alexander Cortez.
See as well, a couple of pit cycles have been coming through here too. Crawford has come through pit lane as well. As we ride on board with our GT3 race leader Pearson, goes right in front of his LMP2 teammate. There's Sheridan though, who's actually now going to get held up by the GT3 car. So that is a great bit of team play, of inter-class team play from that 2-1-2 team. That is a good bit of strategy from them. One that Sheridan is not going to be happy about because he is losing bulk time behind that GT3 car.
Dear, oh dear. Oh, and through the curve pull flare, the BMW getting wrong-footed slightly. Cortez will definitely get a better exit now on the way towards the bus stop chicane. Big slipstream on the way towards the fast left-hander here, and so if he can hold the speed through here, he's got a chance in towards the bus stop chicane. Can he go and surprise Pierce here? He goes to the outside. He's very far alongside straight away, and Cortez is not quite going to find his way past. Pierce in the end able to hold the position, but yeah, that was very, very close again to a change. Meantime, Sheridan has gotten a penalty for contact with Jed Cotterman, in the avoidable contact with Jed Cotterman. So there's the latest penalty to come in from race control.
Hang on, Sheridan wasn't the one that made the contact with him. That was
not that we saw, but
no, that was Small. That was wasn't Small. It was Fabian that made the contact. Tim Craig's just had an incident, by the way. So Sheridan's actually had a separate incident, but yeah, this is Tim Craig's down at turn 1. Self-made spin for BMW. Just didn't get it pulled up in time. As Jed Cotterman has also had another incident as well on board his Mustang. Another turn 1 incident, it seems. Catches the inside. This time it was too tight. And around he goes. Basson now into pit lane as well, as Cotterman gets himself back underway at this stage. As Joe Culp has had another off track on board that McLaren. It's continuing to throw a lot of troubles out there for him, as we can ride here with Francis Crosby. And he actually does have his camera set up today. We can actually see the excitement and no longer being in pain, apparently, of driving the LMP2 car on his face, which is good. He should be smiling ear to ear, though. He gets to basically drive an RC car today in terms of the Audi, so got it as easy as possible.
Yeah, looking good at the moment, 4th place. We're not supposed to be, we've been told not to be nice about him today. Anyway, Crosby moving through on one of the lap cars here. One of the BMWs. Don't know who that is, to be honest with you. It's probably one of the Pro-Amps, but
that's yeah, it is. It's Tim Craig, who we just saw before have an incident. So that was Tim Craig. We've also got Harrison Holiday as well. We're waiting to see if his camera's actually going to show up, because he did have it set up, but I'm not seeing it on the screen, unfortunately, for Harrison. So that's a real shame that we don't get that on screen tonight, but hopefully we can get that sorted for his next race that he's in as well, so we can see him racing around.
He said to us earlier that you definitely want to see my camera. I hope that
I'm trying to.
If it's a joke that he doesn't have a camera and that's what we want to see, then I'll laugh, because
I've gotten the button set up and it's not showing it
at
the moment. So.
No, but that's what I mean. That maybe that's his joke. That we definitely want to see it because it doesn't exist. I don't know. Anyway, it's the kind of Harrison Holiday thing to do. I'm just sort of throwing out theories there. Here comes Andrew Fabian on Oliver Hubbard. 2 drivers not in the same class, but fighting over an overall position. No points on the line for this, but Fabian can get closer to drivers where there are points on the line for. With a pass here. Gets right into the slipstream. Was that somebody stopped? It was one of the LMP2s, but they're laps down at the moment. Fabian gets to the inside of Hubbard quite nicely. So we go back here to
Arden Green.
Look at whoever this is.
Laps down. I just wanted to see who that was. So yeah, that was Arden Green. As Fabian does get past Hubbard now as well.
Pole sitter in Pram having a lot of trouble tonight, but Fabian did indeed get past Hubbard. Meantime, for second, it's all closed up. Bowery got a very strong run through the traffic first time round, but not so strong, it seems, at the moment. As Grubber catches up. This is Joseph Crawford, who's had more trouble. And that's an even harder hit on the wall, this time at Blanchimont. So he might be in the pit lane for quite a while now.
Well, we've also got an incident here. Francis Crosby has had a moment as well, spinning it round in through the upper end of the circuit. Well, appears that LMP2, GT3 doesn't really matter. Crosby still has a spin here at Spa.
Could argue it wouldn't have happened in the LMP2. More grip and all that.
I don't think it would have. It has more downforce. He probably would have been better off. As Justin Welsh has had an incident as well. So another McLaren with issues tonight. We've already seen. And this is up at Blanchimont. Rear end wants to sneak around and straighten the wall. Pretty much a mirror image of what we saw earlier on with fellow McLaren driver Joe Culp. So just a horrid incident for that car, one that I've had happen to me before in another mid-engine car in the Lamborghini, and very, very easy to do. As Fabian is now back behind. So he's trying to chase down, actually. So that's Stephen Smalling just up the road from him as Oliver Hubbard comes into pit lane. But the close battle on track we're seeing here, battle for the race lead. Cortez and Pierce for GT3 Pro classification. It's on as they're side by side up the hill here, Ewan. It's a great battle we've seen throughout this race, and one that looks to be continuing into the second half of proceedings.
Cortez might finally have got it. Oh, he's not quite clear though. He would have been hoping to take the normal lineup Eau Rouge there, and he's got to slow down. That's why he would have been hoping to avoid that, and that's pretty harsh, but he's going to be out this group now. He's going to be out this battle with Pierce. He might even drop a second or so behind, and that is harsh, but that's what happens when you're running side by side up the hill there. He, as I say, would have been hoping to get clear there. It seemed like he was almost going to take the racing lines on. If he did, there would have been a big crash. He's got very nearly a second behind Pierce. He hasn't quite gone to a full second, but that's a lot of work that Cortez is going to have to do to catch straight back up again.
A lot of work, and he worked very, very hard to get that car to that point as well, but Pierce is running strong here. He's just got to try and keep himself clean, as Arden Green trying to get his way back past again on board the LMP2 car. We've got Scott Mowry and Thomas Gruber into pit lane. So both those guys will now trickle their way in. Horrible race last week, it must be said, for Mowry at Daytona. You had heavy damage on board this car. Good to see him running strong today, as a lot of the other LMP2 cars coming into pit lane as well. Dalton Dudley, David Turnbull, those guys have actually managed to go a lap longer here, so they've had a bit of fuel save throughout this race, and they're able to go a bit further along, including last week's race winner, the Kiwi David Turnbull, who sits P2 at this stage. Championship leader for the LMP2 Pro category as well. Let's see who comes out of pit lane first.
It's going to be quite a battle as they stop at the end of 16 laps. They're going 1 or 2 laps longer than we perhaps thought, but again, you do save a bit of fuel when you're in traffic, as the stops really do wind up to a lengthy stop, and Mowry side by side. They're going to go through each other, and thank goodness as well, because they would have got jammed in the pit exit. No one would have been able to come out. Well, thank goodness for that in one sense. Mowry in front of Gruber again in what will become the battle for second, but I thought they weren't going to phase through each other there, and they were going to get stuck in the middle of the pit lane with nobody else able to get past them either. Thankfully, that didn't happen, but I can't believe the amount of confidence they had that they were definitely going to go through each other there. That was remarkable.
Well, I think a lot of drivers are forgetting now they've made changes. That means you can actually make contact in pit lane, even in the fast lane as well. So, yeah, drivers who may anticipate you can drive through each other. I've seen it over the last few seasons. You and actually a driver will think they can drive through someone in pit lane. They'll pull out into the fast lane and just hook them straight into the wall. It can be quite funny when it happens. But yeah, it's very, very tough. But we'll see how they're going to do now. I wonder if there's any damage on the front of this car, though, off that minor contact. Doesn't look to be any aero wash or any aero damage for Kuba, but the podium is still on the line for him. I'm intrigued to see how this battle's actually going to come together, because now that Dudley and Turnbull are into pit lane, they're going to take what should be a shorter pit stop compared to the other drivers. Will this give them any time advantage? We've got to watch the end of pit lane here to see what happens.
Impressive that they've been able to go this far, really, as they come to a stop now, the two of them. Turnbull close to Dudley, of course, on the pit lane, although he wasn't running close to him, really. His start was a little bit poor. See where he can get to here. Last week's race winner, David Turnbull, as these stops get up to 30-odd seconds. As long stops here. The amount of fuel that's needed need to be taken for the LMP2s, much less, about a third of a stop shorter for the GT3s that we're seeing, as Houghton Holley also comes in. Turnbull's stop was 3 seconds shorter than Dudley's, and suddenly they're a lot closer. We'll see how many that Turnbull has actually jumped here. He's up into a legitimate second place. And yes, Mowry and Gruber are going to get closer with the exit from the racetrack that they've got here compared to Turnbull getting up to speed from pit lane. But as long as he's got the fuel to make this, Turnbull, that's a big, big time gain that he's just made with the shortest pit stop in all of LMP2.
Well, it's 2 weeks in a row that the Kiwi has become the fuel save specialist that we've been seeing. He's managed to fuel save himself up positions tonight, Ewan, in a great effort. And, P2 now for Turnbull. He's 1.8 seconds away from Dudley. We may be in for a hot battle to the race end, possibly for the overall race win. GT3s are now in pit lane as Justin Bock comes in, leading the other pros and a few Pro-Ams into pit lane, as well as James Pearce has already been through. He'll maintain the race lead. And in fact, he is going to gain on Cortez on pit exit. Undercut has worked a treat for Pearce, but Cortez is going to be right on the exit though. This is going to be super, super close. Cortez has actually jumped Pearce in pit lane. What a great move, but Pearce has got the run. Move's going to be on for Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Can he go around the outside? He can. Cortez has to back out of it. Battles back on though for the GT3 race lead.
Yeah, he was ahead for a moment there, Cortez, but the exit with speed was always going to catch up with him there. And Pearce gets straight back in front all over again. It is between these two for the race victory. There was barely anything between them in terms of pit stop time as well, by the way, so hardly a surprise that these two are the ones who've come out with the race lead and the fight for this race win as well. So Pearce is in front of Cortez. It's 6 or 7/10 of a second right now, about 2/3 of a second between these two. We've got just over 20 minutes to fight this one out as well, but one more time in this race, all of the LMP2s are going to be coming past them again. So they're going to have to watch out in the mirrors. Not yet, actually, there is this LMP2 coming through, but they're quite a long way off the back of the field, really. That's Oliver Hubber, I believe, coming through. The big contenders, the main contenders at the very front will be coming past once as well, and that could be race defining.
Could be very race defining. Of course, we're still waiting for Andrew Fabian and Gray Bates and Arden Green to come back past these cars as well. As James Pearce, great pace over these first few weeks. Has found another incident for Tim Craig further down the order. Oh, that is up at Lacombe. And that BMW has been in the wars already tonight. Mostly self-made incidents, and it looks to be another one here for Craig, who's just run it way too wide. And again, I think the big challenge for Craig is, and one thing he'll have to be working on over the next few weeks, Ewan, it's just the corner entry speed is the one thing that's killing him. That's the one thing that's causing his incidents, and it's frustrating because he carried too much into turn one when he spun it round, and he's carried too much into Lacombe when he's gone round as well. As here comes Cortez to the inside of the final corner, and to the outside of turn one. They'll have Andrew Fabian come by the outside as well. Can Cortez run the pace? The BMW gives him the squeeze. The Merc on the outside though. It's front engine German manufacturer versus front engine German manufacturer for GT3 Pro. Absolute victory today as he has to back out of it and tuck back into P2. But Cortez has got pace, and Pearce may feel like he's bleeding very shortly.
Cortez is going to be surely levelling another attack at him very, very shortly. Will it be later on this straight towards Lacombe here? You can see that Pearce is looking in his mirrors because he's just weaving a little bit, but no, nothing this time round. Change for third overall meantime as Maori holds off Gruber, and an attack there for a podium place overall. Scott Maori holds on though into the bus stop chicane. That was actually it was just earlier than that actually, but yeah, Maori able to hold on as they cross the line again. You can see how close they are to those class leaders, so yeah, plenty more traffic for these LMP2s to come through, including those two class leaders in GT3.
You can see the sort of pace that's being pushed upon this field for Maori and Gruber as well. Slow down for Joseph Crawford at this stage. There's been an incident as well for the likes of Jed Cotterman and Paul Basson, I believe, have had a moment together. This is up and around Blanchimont, and this has caused Cotterman to actually have to jump back to pit lane. So again, the rear end of a Mustang going round down at Blanchimont. So actually, Cotterman's incident was all on his lonesome. Basson's would have been separate as well, and this is up further around the circuit towards Francorchamps. As you can see, Basson come through on the Porsche, runs it a bit wide, catches the sand. It was just a minor off track actually, so I thought it might have been a lot worse than that, but it wasn't at that stage of the race as well. But for Scott Maori, it's feeling the pressure from Gruber in behind. There's a slowdown penalty for Kyle Smith on board the LMP2 class as well. They'll traverse this traffic as best they can, but further up the road from him, this battle continues on for the GT3 Pro race win. James Pearce Alexander Cortez. One-on-one for race win here today. As Harrison Holiday's had a moment in the LMP2 category. He has gone around, and there's been an issue with his camera tonight, and it looks to be an issue with this car as well, as it loses the rear end up at Lacombe.
Still third in the Pro-Am class, but didn't drop any places with this spin, but nevertheless, never ideal really, as you have to rejoin there. There goes one of the LMP2s. That was not, what was that? No, it wasn't, sorry. That was somebody else. Or maybe it wasn't, I don't know. But Tyler Crowe didn't go past in that moment. Oh, it was Wall, Lucas Wall, who went through, in fact. But, yeah, they're not in the same class, so don't worry about them. Here comes Cortez again, outside in towards Lacombe, but not able to do it again. And getting to the stage now where it's looking like Cortez is really, really struggling to actually make this move. Now, he's still got more than 15 minutes to go, which does lend itself to there being at least one more chance for him here, and the odds are that he will go and take one of these chances, but he looks to me to just be beginning to really struggle in making a move right now.
It doesn't look like he's maybe able to set it up, or even what it looks to me is he's trying to do this right on corner entry, and he's not actually focusing on corner exit. And he may need to try and find the balance of aim for corner exit if he can for a move to be completed, or try and set up your move for corner exit so that you're actually going to start making the move off the corner. So instead of him trying to go down the inside or down the outside for turn 1, hang back, try and sit in behind for the run through turn 1, get the run up Eau Rouge and Raidillon, try and get alongside and see if you can get the job done up at Lacombe. Because ultimately for him, the way that he's attacking this battle is not allowing him to get past Pierce, because Pierce knows where he needs to defend. He knows where he can defend, and he knows where he can do it well. And ultimately, that's where the difficulty is lying for Alexander Cortez in trying to get this move made. So again, I think he's got to start thinking ahead here, and he's probably got to start aiming for corner exits to be the point in which he begins his moves, instead of trying to go for it on the corner entry.
Can he manage to make this move here on Pierce? Look at the way they're following each other there, almost taking exactly the same line coming through La Source that time. We'll be hoping that the slipstream for this Mercedes will be good enough to see him alongside Pierce by the time they get to the end of this straight, as they come now through Eau Rouge and Raidillon up over the top of the hill. Oh, that was close to a slowdown there for Pierce. He, wow, just about got away with that, but my goodness, he took a risk there over the top of the hill. Shows how much he wants to stay in front. Does he believe that if he gets past, then maybe he won't be able to get back past again into the lead? He's holding the inside again here, though, and he holds Cortez behind him again, but wow, he took a risk there over the top of the hill, and he must have been inches away, centimetres perhaps, from a slowdown penalty. He's gone wide now, though, coming out of Malmedy, and that opens the door for Cortez. He's basically rolled out the red carpet here, but it's a long way around the outside, and Cortez can't go all the way around there, and he stays in second place again.
So my thought there is as well, Ewan, so we saw him running down the backstretch, covering the inside, as Cortez tries to go for the outside here, can't quite get it. But you saw Pierce cover the inside. My thought then is, why are you trying to go for it around the outside? Why not just hang in behind him, literally park the car underneath his rear wing, and then try and tuck up his inside again as he opens up the door? Because remember, he's going to take a very, very shallow line if he's going to try and cover the inside for you and defend. You can use that to your advantage on corner entry. So for Cortez, if he sees Pierce try and cover that inside so offensively again, as Pierce gets loose on the entry to the backstretch, he's pushing that BMW to its absolute limits. Can Cortez get past? Yes, he can. Into the race lead goes the Merc, and it doesn't matter what I said now, because now he leads the way with 13.5 minutes to go.
Well, it feels like that had been coming. Cortez had a go at Lacombe. He was invited to have another go at Bruxelles, and then again at Pouhon, and finally on his fourth attempt of the lap, he finally got through. It was almost as if Pierce was trying to get him to go past. Obviously he wasn't, but that's what it felt like, the amount of mistakes that were creeping in there as these two fight it out for the race lead. Through turn 1, how long can he keep it is the question. Has that Mercedes been struggling to get past because of a deficiency in straight line speed compared to the BMW, or is that just the advantage that's held by the driver in front. This is the chance that was offered up through No Name. Bit of a slide from Pierce, and Cortez goes to the outside through Pouon. He's gaining again though, Pierce, on the back straight towards Lecomte this time. This is how the pass was made a couple of moments ago. But yeah, Pierce is having another go here, coming towards the end of the straight, and he might well have gotten straight back through again. Here he is, outside line. He's had his nose in front, well in front for a moment, but Cortez is going to hold him, or is he? Through Malmedy, round the outside from Pierce. The two of them absolutely locked together again in this wonderful battle for the GT3 win. Cortez holds the inside and he keeps the place, but Pierce tries to tuck underneath him again. He's going to keep him on a compromised line, but Cortez takes back the racing line again. And as long as he doesn't make a mistake, he shouldn't open the door towards Pouon, I don't think. And Pierce is going to have to stay behind. This battle's not over yet. It's not about who's in first, who's in second. It's about two very, very evenly matched drivers fighting it out for the win.
I mean, and what a race it is for this race win as well between the both of them. There's been a couple of incidents happening throughout this period as well, as Ryan Castlebury had a self-made moment down at turn 1 on the run through the corner, as well as Tim Craig, who just had a moment trying to let past the LMP2 car. That was a very awkward moment between the both of them down there. And then as well as this one here in the Inter GT3 battle, Zach Houston, Francis Crosby having a moment here, as well as we can see that Houston has a minor off track, I believe, and Crosby may have followed him wide as well. No, they had to avoid another GT3 car, so that was the moment between those guys just there as well. But yeah, it's really heating up in this GT3 race win battle between James Pierce and Alexander Cortez. Just 11 minutes to go now, Ewan. Arguably, there's only probably about, 5 laps left. Maybe a 6th on offer. This is going to be very, very close for these two cars to make the most of this race and to get themselves home in an almighty battle. But if there's more than 4 laps, are they going to make it to the end? The fuel says they will, because they went 16 laps in the first run, so they should be okay as Houston and Crosby continue this battle further back as well. So this is all on between these guys as well, as now up the hill, James Pierce has got a slowdown over Raidillon. So that's going to take him right out of this battle.
Is that the moment? Is that it? The gap goes to over a second. This is what I was expecting from Cortez's slowdown earlier. It didn't really go out many more than 9/10, but this is so damaging. Must have been a very egregious cut, because that's a 1.5 seconds, and dare I say it, that is the race right there, settled. And, well, Cortez now is just going to hold this margin rather than actually keep anybody behind him with extravagant defending or anything like that. He's just got to keep it on the road. Let's just watch this first part of the lap to see how egregious this was. Sometimes they're a little bit harsh, these slowdowns, but maybe this one isn't. I didn't see it, I must admit. So let's find out here. It won't have been out of La Source. It's not possible to cut or extend there anymore. It will be over the top through either Eau Rouge or Raidillon here, probably over the top of the hill itself. You can go right over to left there at the first part, but not over the top here. Oh, yeah. And there you go. He's been pushing the envelope there lap after lap, and he's finally found the limit there the very hard way.
Well, it's unfortunate for Pierce, who now finds himself 1.5 seconds back. Oh, and you see him pushing it hard once again, the rear end getting loose. So, yeah, unfortunately for Pierce, because even if he catches him right, I don't think he's actually going to have enough time to get back past again. And now he's having to deal with this LMP2 traffic. Turnbull and Dudley, by the way, have really broken away from Scott Mowry. 12 seconds is now the gap, as Turnbull will begin to try and chase down the race leader once again. 1.2 seconds is the gap for the LMP2 race lead in the overall, as well as the pro category as well. It's a very similar case for that GT3 Pro category too. So Chris, by the way, very, very dominant performance today. Just over 15 seconds ahead of Tyler Crow. I have asked for confirmation from Race Control, actually, if Sheridan was actually promoted, because I just kind of did it expecting him to be promoted after last week's performance at Daytona, based on what they said. But we still haven't actually heard anything in terms of a confirmation. But he is as a pro at the moment because of that. But we know... Oh, it has actually just been confirmed. Sheridan is still a pro-am for now. So we will actually move him back just to confirm there. So he is actually sitting P2, which means the differential between the race lead is not actually as bad as what we thought it was.
into the final 10 minutes here. Where are these changes going to come from in the remainder of this race? As we put Sheridan back into the prams, and we've been told that he will, as you say, will be moved up eventually. See, it's the early part of the season, so there's actually always these lots of these discussions that go on about where people should be and so on. Very hard to actually decide where so many in the field should actually be. But anyway, to be fair, we would, as we say, and we have been saying it. It's a remarkable drive last week from Sheridan to win in such dominant fashion. Actually, pretty evenly matched with the rest of the Prams here today. As meantime, Wall gets past one of the Pro-Ams. That might have been Tyler Crow, I think. It was indeed. So there's an overall place, but still only 10th for Wall in the LMP2 Pro class.
That's right. We know that Sheridan as well has got a 15-second penalty as Josh Mann will have a heavy incident as well on board this Ferrari. Been a real struggle for the mid-engine cars of today, and unfortunately the gravel is going to bite him harder than he would have ever expected. So Sheridan will he drop off the podium? He will drop off at least P to P3. Harrison Holiday has to gain about a second to force Sheridan off the podium today for the Pro-Am class as well. We've still got tight battles. Anthony Mazzella is just trying to break away from Pavel Kaska, as well as Zach Houston is about 0.6 per second ahead of Paul Basson as well. At the moment, though, Alexander Cortez has begun to get chased down by James Pearce once again here, Ewan. It's down to under a second with 6 minutes to go, just about. Is there going to be enough time for this battle to commence, and is there going to be enough time for James Pearce to get back past as Maori looks to get by Cortez up at the top of the Raidillon?
Well, when they go through scrutineering later, there's going to be magnets found, I suspect, in the two of these cars, Cortez and Pearce. They have been absolutely tied together, especially for the second half of this race tonight. I thought that was absolutely it there, but Pearce has brought it back again, and Cortez there did not get the best rub of the green with traffic. He was slow down through Lecomte, and there Pearce is straight back with it again. By the way, the battle for the overall lead is not that far apart either. I think Turnbull is really putting the pressure on Dudley at the very front as well. So we might have two lead battles to try and keep an eye on at the same time. That one at the very front, a little bit further apart, at 1.3 seconds or so. They not long got past these guys, by the way. I don't think we saw it because they were spread apart at the time, but the overall leaders did get past these class leaders in GT3 as Pearce gets another slowdown. Well, that really might be it this time with only 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, this time, luckily for him, though, it wasn't at Raidillon, so it wasn't the extreme slowdown. It was actually at Pouon there. He had to try and Cortez is not happy with the LMP2s and the way that they're traversing the traffic here today. But yes, that has separated them once again. So Dalton Dudley has not been challenged this whole race, really, from the cars in behind. Continue to push on. 4.5 minutes to go in this race now. 1.3 seconds is the gap back to David Turnbull. Although Cortez and Pearce are still underneath the second here, Ewan. So Pearce, if he actually is behind him by the time they're at the line, which he's going to be, he will actually be in draft range for the run up the hill through Eau Rouge Raidillon, then onto the Kemmel Straight. And we'll be back with him once again. So this is going to be an exciting battle to the race end. It seems he just needs to keep that car in line, keep the slowdowns in check.
Just got to focus it in here for the final, potentially 3 laps of this race. Will be 3 laps indeed. Dudley's around a third of the way through his third last lap right now, with Turnbull closing and only just over 1 second behind, just under a second between these two as they come over the top of the hill here. Cortez being chased by Pearce as another LMP2 goes through. Even though I mentioned the leaders got through quite a while ago, there's still plenty of LMP2s yet to come past here, but neither of them affected too much this time. Or is Cortez going to be affected into the braking zone where the GT3s are very strong, of course? Doesn't look like it on this occasion, but Pearce is just catching naturally anyway.
And you can see him riding the edge of grip on board that BMW. I mean, you see him getting loose through corners, the rear end just getting out from underneath him. He's really pushing the grip limitations of that 212 car to its absolute limits to try and take 2 wins in a row this season. course, Pierce does lead the GT3 Pro category. He wants to continue to lead it off the back of this race here tonight as well, after such a strong performance at Daytona last week. He's driving incredibly well, and he's just got to put the pieces of the puzzle together tonight and find a way back past Alexander Cortez before this race is done. With only 2.5 minutes to go, Dalton Dudley at the moment is coming through the bus stop chicane. It is going to be 2 laps to go here, Ewan, at a circuit of Spa-Francorchamps, with a little bit of overtime on offer for us.
As always, we'll just spill over a little bit here as Dudley indeed gets that 2 laps to go. He'll be feeling the pressure here. There's no doubt about that. He will be feeling the pinch from Turnbull right behind him. There are the current class leaders. The only one who's comfortable really at this stage, I would just say, is John Voigt in the Pro-Ams in GT3. Only gained 1 place, and that was Lorenzo Rujo dropping down. He dropped down 6 places, by the way. But there's Voigt, all on his own and all comfortable, unlike the others. 1.5 seconds for the overall lead. 3 seconds just over for Secrest, and under 1 second, as will probably be the case right to the very end for Cortez here over Pierce, who really is in a race against time. He's there or thereabouts, but can he get close enough for a move in the limited time remaining?
Well, remember, he's got 2 laps now that he can try and do this. 2 laps, 1 to chase down the gap and then 1 to make the move. Now, what can that offer up to us? Well, A, offers up to us some great racing, but B, most importantly, it offers up some desperation for Pierce. How desperate is he going to be to gain those few extra points? I mean, that is going to be one to keep an eye on, because if he gets ultimately too desperate here, Ewan, and goes for a ballsy move, it could balls it up for both of them. It could put both of them off track. Yes, they've got 16 seconds back to Daniel Leith in P3, but it's ultimately going to be a cause of, well, Cortez doesn't want to end up off track risking his loss of race win. Pierce doesn't want to take him out either, but he wants to race for the race lead as well. It's going to be very tight, very tough. Desperation could be a major factor here, though, in the final few minutes.
Let's see here. How badly do they want this in round 2 of a long 12-week season? There's still a very, very long way to go in this season's competition, the Bitepoint Racing Sports Car Challenge. Next week we're from Laguna Seca, by the way, as a couple of circuits where it's much less easy in terms of traffic really begin. We'll touch on that at the end here tonight as the leaders take the white flag. Dudley has just extended that leading margin, although that won't help. A dust cloud set out by one of the Ferraris in front, and he powers through and on his way to the final lap. And it looks like on his way to race victory in front of last week's winner, Turnbull, as long as he keeps it on the road for the next 7 kilometres.
Well, that's going to be the important part, isn't it? Keep it on the circuit, keep it on the tarmac. Keep yourself in line and in check, as well as see Nicholas Secrest just having a bit of a struggle back here in the race lead of the LMP2 Pro-Am class. Remember that he's not under pressure in terms of points or time here in this race, because Sheridan does have that 15-second time penalty. This race is on, though, for the GT3 Pro win, but is Secrest going to be a part to play? Is he going to be a joker in the thief of this race win? And is he maybe going to be a little bit of a spanner in the works, because he wants to come past James Pierce? He'll get past James Pierce. He'll have to hang in between them, though, up the hill. Oh. This is now intense, because Pierce wants to push on, but Secrest has been held up, and he's not happy. He's flashing the absolute hell out of him, because this is the last chance he has to get back into the race lead.
Well, Sheridan's getting alongside, but he's got a penalty, so that won't really turn into a battle for the race lead, although Secrest goes off, and it's a fight for, and he goes and gets the slowdown as well. So it's going to be a win on the road, it looks like, for Sheridan, but not when the stewards have applied all the penalties, at least as we think at the moment. But all of that has slowed up for Cortez, no doubt, and it might give Pierce a chance at the very final moment. Dalton Dudley, meantime, at the front of the field, is going to come through to take victory in the second round of the Bitepoint Racing Sports Car Challenge. What a great race from him. Pole position earlier on, controls the race all the way through, and even sees off the challenge from David Turnbull, who really came to the fore after the pit stops. It's Dudley who wins at Spa, though, in front of Turnbull. And further down in the field, Maury's going to be third. And behind, what's going to happen here for fourth place? It looks like Grubber's going to be in fourth. Espes Espinez and Hendricks battling side by side through the final turns. A good exit from Hendricks. Oh, not enough actually, and he lifts off actually towards the end to let him go. Sheridan's going to win on the road in prime, but that's going to go over to Secrest. And then next in line, it's going to be Cortez and Pierce, who look like they're just too far apart here for Pierce to be thinking about anything towards the final corners of this race. Through Blanchemont, as long as there's no slowing here from that LMP2 in front, I don't think Pierce has got a chance from that far back, although he's really closed in here, coming on the brakes, and he's not quite got the right line. He was never going to get from that far back anyway, as I say. And Cortez does hold on for the race victory, weaves over the line in delight, because that was a very, very hard fought for victory.
Very, very hard fought victory, and a great victory as well for Alexander Cortez. John Voigt as well now will come down towards the line and will look to take home the race win in a few corners' time as well. He's actually much further back. He actually started this last lap, Ewan, just before David Dudley finished his final lap of the race. So if he'd actually held back a little bit, he could have gone himself 1 lap shorter if he'd allowed the race leader back past him, but that's okay. He's driving very, very well to this point of the race. He's on his 27th lap at this stage. Been a pretty good race from him, nice and tidy. We haven't seen anything egregious from John today. That's what's kept him nice and clean. And obviously, this is what normally keeps him in a good stead of race positions as well, all throughout a whole bunch of different categories, whether it's GT3 racing or even GT4 racing previously as well. To the final corner, he will come and he will finally take home that Pro-Am win here today out at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. For John Voigt, he wins it to James Gilpin. And Chris Grondin on the podium after being in the wars tonight was Chris Grondin. That's a great result for him when he gets to the line here today. If he can get to the line, he can. So that will maximise that podium for him, Ewan. And, well, it's quite interesting to see a double JAC podium for that team out there as well, with James Gilpin being the separator on board his Aston Martin.
What a fantastic second round to this championship, as some of them getting more than what they bargained for, with nearly 65 minutes of racing. Luckily, everybody had the fuel to get to the end. As we look through some replays, we'll have a look at the race results from tonight, and indeed interview the race winners in just a moment. Nicholas Secrest seems already aware, by the way, that he has taken victory in the Pro-Am class with Sheridan's penalty, but let's go with the GT3 Pro-Ams first. And John Voigt, who's taken the most comfortable of the victories. James Gilpin and Chris Grondin were not that far away in the end, though. Walker Morgan and Josh Mann were then running out top 5. Actually, Mann and everybody else behind not able to complete the same amount of laps. Lorenzo Rio, who qualified on pole and started well, finished his 6th in front of Jordan Cox and Joe Cope, who rounds off the top 8. Randy Oliver was 2 laps down with Ryan Castlebury. Tyler Smith 4 down with Tim Craig, 7 down. Some late-ish and halfway retirements. Bo Harvey, Justin Welsh, Mackenzie Marcord and Neil Barber were early retirements. Barber not starting this race. In the pros, Cortez holds off Pierce in that great battle we saw there. Daniel Leaf joins them on the podium. Justin Bock and Rodrigo Viana running out the top 5 in front of Francis Crosby, who ends in that group, as well as Pavel Kaska, Anthony Mazzella, Paul Basson and Zach Houston rounding out the top 10. Michael Spon outside that top 10. Joseph Crawford, Jed Cotterman and Mark Salmon all out of the race fairly late on. In the LMP2 Pro-Ams, it is a victory for Jacob Sheridan on the racetrack, but he will be docked 15 seconds, so he'll be behind Nicholas Secrest, but he will still be second. Tyler Crowe will complete the podium, finishing just in front of Harrison Holiday. Stephen Smalley not far away either. Oliver Hubber was next, ahead of Arden Green, the pole sitter, and Gray Bates rounding out the top 8 with 1 lap down finish. And not Jacob Sheridan, sorry, I'm going back to the front of reading again. Dalton Dudley, wins overall in the LMP2 Pros. Just in front of David Turnbull in the end. Scott Murray holds off that group with Thomas Gruber, Andrew Espinez and Sammy Hendricks. And Aguilar was not far away. Neither was Carl Smith, Aidan Beffel and Lucas Wall rounding out the top 10, with Andrew Fabian rounding out all 11, who all got to the line in a reasonable time, actually, in LMP2 Pro. Let's chat to the overall winner, shall we? Dalton Dudley, who will join us now. Dalton, welcome in. Congratulations on the race victory tonight from Spa. Tell us if you were ever really worried about your race lead, to be honest, because you led almost every lap here tonight. In fact, you did lead every lap, I should say, but David Turnbull at times was only a second or so behind you, especially out of the pit stops. Did that concern you at any point in that race?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I couldn't really relax at all. Every time I would kind of let off the gas a little bit, let myself settle down. He was within a couple of seconds of me, so I just really couldn't relax at all. He was making me sweat for sure.
What does this mean for your targets this season? Do you think, are you going to be running up towards the front all season? Because I see it's sixth place at Daytona, ending up there. Is this more like what you're expecting and hoping for this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, I don't expect to win every race. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely hope to be fighting for wins consistently. After Daytona, that was such a really rough start for me. So I'm glad to get out here and show a little bit of what I'm made of. I guess have a good result. So I'm definitely happy today.
Well, congratulations on taking the race victory here tonight, Dalton, and thanks for chatting to us at the end of the race as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, Dalton Dudley, the winner on the road overall here tonight. And in the prams further down, it's Nicholas Secrest who takes the race victory tonight. Nicholas, congratulations on the race winner. A late fight between yourself and Jacob Sheridan, but I'm presuming that you knew what the score was there, and that Sheridan had a penalty. What were those final few laps like?
Yeah, kind of just messed up a lot last 10 or so laps, just trying to pass GT3s. So he was able to get past me. But he mentioned very clearly that he kind of murdered a GT3, so I was pretty sure he was going to end up getting a penalty. So, yeah, it would have been nice to finish in front. It's not the best feeling to be here finishing second on track, but yeah, it was fun.
A win is still a win, and it's your 10th in this league, indeed, a milestone that not many have managed to reach. But you are now into double figures for wins. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it does feel like a little while since you've had one of these, to be fair. I mean, how pleased are you that, I know it wasn't on the road, and maybe that will disappoint you slightly, but how much does it mean to get that 10th victory? And yeah, it feels like the first in a little while.
Yeah, it feels great. I won at Spa last season for the pro category, so I guess I have a knack for Spa, I guess. Yeah, feels good.
Well, congratulations on that win, Nicholas, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Thanks very much, Nicholas Secrest, who wins, as I say, reaching that milestone. We'll try and keep across the milestones here at the Bitepoint Racing League, and a big thanks to everyone who's at the admin team who's keeping across these for us. Secrest, the only one reaching one of those here tonight with a 10th league victory, one of those into double figures. Alexander Cortez isn't there yet, but what a fight it was in the GT3 field. Joins us now, Alexander. Welcome in. Congratulations on that win. What a hard-fought and brilliant fight that was between yourself and James Pearce. Just describe to us the immediate emotion from coming out the right side of that battle there.
Relief. He is a tough cookie. You don't get many people that can hang around your outside or inside that long without creating much contact. So fair play to him for keeping it clean.
Fair play to both of you for keeping it clean. It was a great watch for us, and it's your first round of this season that you've competed in. I mean, does this again set the tone for the season? Do you hope, are we going to be seeing you much more this season? Hopefully towards the front.
That's the plan. Initially, I wasn't gonna do this season, and impulsively signed up today, and I guess it was a good idea.
That certainly was. Congratulations again, Alex, on the win, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alexander Cortez, the victor in GT3 Pro, and in Pro-Am, John Voigt taking the victory tonight as well in the most comfortable of the four classes. Actually, John, congratulations. Good to see you in the VR headset taking the victory here tonight. How was that for you?
That was definitely interesting. I know talking to the Jack Racing team, I wanted to try something different. They've been on me to try the BMW, and I wanted to give it a shot. Definitely given this car a lot of crap over the last few months, and wanted to see how I could test it out in the Bitepoint series. Definitely interesting being on the flip side of the car classes coming out of LMP2 last season. So definitely an interesting race. It seemed a lot like survival was the key component of this race, and full head of steam going forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned survival being such a big factor, and I can especially imagine, given that you're in the lowest of the four classes, that being the case. But do you think that's only going to be accelerated in the next few weeks for this entire season and not just be about tonight? Because the next 4 circuits, for example, Laguna Seca, Mosport, which will be a 90-minute race, Bathurst and Suzuka, they to me all seem like even more difficult circuits than this one. So do you think that you might look back on this race and think, actually, this wasn't so bad in terms of survival, and these 4 are the real ones coming up?
Right, absolutely. And I think one of the other components is a lot of new faces, a larger grid, and so definitely playing the strategy game correctly and knowing when to be patient, when to try and keep your place in line. And definitely saw there were a few wrecks from being a little bit aggressive in corners for some of the cars. And so with the tracks coming up, just making sure that knowing when to push, when to relax, and it will be definitely interesting.
Well, we look forward to seeing you at those in the coming weeks. John, congratulations tonight on the Prime win, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much. John Voigt, the winner in Pro-Am here tonight of the GT3 category. And I think that's a good place to springboard into next week here, Hamish, because I really do think these guys might look back on these first 2 weeks and think, oh, that was fine when you compare it to the month that they've got coming up. Laguna Seca, Canadian Time Motorsports Park, which, as I say, is our first of 2 endurance rounds this season of 90 minutes. Bathurst, which is going to be very entertaining indeed for us, maybe less for the drivers, and Suzuka, which will be on September 10th. That is a month where well, I don't want to go early and say this season will be decided because it's all contained within the first half of this season, but there's going to be a mighty reckoning in the next month.
Oh, there will be, and I won't be here next week, unfortunately, for Laguna Seca, but I'm excited that I get to be here for Mosport. I'm excited to be here for Bathurst, which we've both already mentioned already. We think that that's a bold choice by the drivers. We'll see if they're going to be eating their words or not come September 3rd. And then, to go to Suzuka the weekend of the Suzuka 1000 is going to be fantastic as well. And then, you look to the rest of the season, the likes of Silverstone, which I'm actually a believer that we should be going to the historic Silverstone, not the Grand Prix circuit, but that's just my opinion. Road Atlanta as well, Watkins Glen, the Nürburgring for the combined circuit, Monza, and then Sebring for the final endurance race of the season. It's a hot end to the season, of course, and that second half is going to be incredibly exciting, but the next 4 weeks are going to be just as exciting as well, and you guys don't want to miss any of the action. I mean, this is the place to see it, Ewan, and I think, I think if there's going to be a sneaky early pick for a strong race and one that may be great this season, Mosport's going to be the one to watch it, in my opinion.
Well, looking forward to the next 4 weeks. Either ways round, we'll obviously be live with all of them here on Motormouth Broadcasting. Very much looking forward to bringing these to you in the coming weeks. I've been Ewan Leary alongside Hamish Monroe here tonight on the Bitepoint Racing Sports Car Challenge, second round here from Spa-Francorchamps. Make sure you join us over in California, Laguna Seca, coming up next week. Until then, it's goodbye for now.